ఇంటర్మీడియట్ విద్యారంగంలో అగ్రగామి మన NSR ఇంపల్స్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్. ఐఐటి జేఈఈ అయినా నీట్ అయినా తిరుగులేని విద్యా సంస్థ NSR ఇంపల్స్.
Let us continue with adventitious root modifications. Now altogether in adventitious root modifications, what did we study? We have three categories. What are they? Storage roots, and then second category is mechanical roots, and then third category is altogether we have physiological roots. Right? Now if you take adventitious root modifications, already we discussed taproot modifications. Now we are with adventitious root modifications. In this we divide into storage roots, mechanical roots and physiological roots. Coming to storage roots, we already have discussed three categories: tubercular roots, and then fasciculated roots, and nodulose roots. So for the last video we have studied already tubercular roots, fasciculated roots and nodulose roots. All three we discussed, right? Now let us go with the second category called mechanical roots. Now if you take the mechanical roots, so we have three categories: prop or pillar roots, then next one is, apart from this, stilt or brace roots. So including the third category, climbing roots. Right? All three categories. Coming to physiological roots, we study parasites, epiphytes, photosynthetic roots. So tubercular roots, fasciculated roots, nodulous roots we have discussed for the last class very clearly, under which come under what? Storage roots. Now let us continue our discussion with mechanical roots. So let us talk about mechanical roots. What is the first one we have? Prop roots or pillar roots. So I am writing here prop or pillar roots. What are these prop or pillar roots? As I told you earlier, in case of banyan tree, Ficus religiosa, it's commonly called a banyan tree. Now in this example of banyan tree, what did we discuss? Already we find horizontal roots on the base, very thick woody aerial roots. What we call them? We already discussed, they are called as buttress roots. Yes or no? So horizontal woody roots what we find here, they are called as what? Buttress roots. And from the branches of the tree we find a free hangings, and these are called prop roots or pillar roots. Okay, from the branches of the huge tree, other than radicle, from any of the part of the plant, if they get transferred, then they are called as what? prop roots or pillar roots. That means here from the branch they freely hang down and they are aerial, not connected with the basal part of the stem. They freely hang in the air, they are called prop roots or pillar roots. So what is the scientific name? Ficus religiosa. What is the common name for this? Banyan tree. That is nothing but prop roots or pillar roots. What is the main function? They provide mechanical support. They provide what is called as mechanical support. Now coming to the second one, the next one, second one, stilt root, or also called as brace roots. What are the stilt roots or base roots here? Now for example, this is the base of the stem, this is the soil. From these are nothing but adventitious roots. These are nothing but what? Adventitious root. Where they are developing? They are developing from basal node of the stem. They develop from where? Basal node of the stem. This is nothing but basal node, right? So they develop from the base of the basal part of the stem, and from there it forms what are called adventitious root. So whenever there is a formation of bunch of roots, not from the radical, not into the ground or the soil, if they form from the basal part of the node, basal node means last node of the stem, basal node of the stem, it forms adventitious root. Such type of adventitious roots are called brace roots or stilt roots. So they are not in the ground, they produce from the basal part of the node. On either side you can see bunch of the roots. They are called stilt roots or also called as what? Brace roots, right. Next here you can take example for stilt roots or basal roots. For example, you can take saccharum. This is nothing but what? Saccharum. Saccharum is nothing but what? Sugar cane. Saccharum commonly called as what? Sugar cane. And also we find rhizopora, and then giamis, what I wrote here scientific name, it's commonly called as maize. And here sorghum, means jowar. Okay, so these all are nothing but examples, very important examples. What are stilt or brace roots here? They develop from the base of the node. From the base of the node you can see bunch of roots arises here. These bunch of roots which arises from the basal node of the stem, they are called stilt roots or base roots. So what are the examples? Here also they provide mechanical support. What are the examples we can take? Sorghum, saccharum, rhizopora, giamis. Sorghum is a scientific name, common name is jowar. Saccharum is a scientific name, common name is sugarcane. Rhizopora, you know rhizopora we discussed earlier, right? Rhizopora also contain what? Mangroves. What do they contain? What type of roots they contain? Halophytes I said. Mangroves, respiratory roots, right? And giamis commonly called as maize. Now what is the very important thing we need to talk about rhizopora? I am talking about rhizopora is very important. Rhizopora contains two types of roots. It contains two types of roots. What are the two types of roots here? It contains no doubt respiratory roots. Now respiratory root is one type, and what is other type? Stilt root. So very important, whenever you get the question which plant shows two types of roots, two types of root modifications, then when two types of root modifications are given, take the example option, choose the option rhizopora. What is the question expected? Which plant shows the two types of root modifications? Then the answer or the option is Rhizopora. Why Rhizopora? Because it shows both respiratory roots and stilt roots. Right. So these are nothing but what we call stilt roots, brace roots. Next one is climbing roots. So let us talk about climbing roots. So here let me talk about what? Climbing roots. So I am writing here C, climbing roots. Now, so if you look at here in case of climbing roots, here we say that they also provide mechanical support, no doubt. Yes, they provide what we call a mechanical support. They provide mechanical support. So what happens in this case here? They become aerial roots which helps in climbing. What are these aerial roots which helps in climbing? What is the meaning of this here? Now if you take, these helps in climbing. They take the support on the wall and they grow. They freely hang in the air. That is what is meaning called as climbing. So for this you can take example Piper beetle. Okay, what is the example? Piper beetle. So you can take, this is nothing but a root hairs, they grow like this. So with the help of roots they climb on the wall. Right, with the help of roots they climb on the wall. They are called as what? Climbing roots. What is the example for that? Piper beetle. Now I repeat again. What is the second category? Mechanical roots. There are three types of mechanical roots. What are they? Prop roots or pillar roots. Second one is stilt roots or brace roots. Third one is climbing roots. All three provide mechanical support. That's why they are called mechanical roots. Let us talk about each one. Let us take first one. What is the first one? We have prop roots or pillar roots. So here if you take the example Ficus religiosa, this is a scientific name for banyan tree. In this case, you know, at the base of the stem on the ground soil, you can see thick roots penetrates. We already discussed them on the taproot modification. What is that? Fibrous roots. We already discussed this. Then coming to from the branches, you can see freely hanging air. This freely hanging roots what are present here, these are called prop roots or pillar roots. So what is the expected question on Ficus religiosa? Suppose you get a question that, what is the question we get expected here? So we say which plant shows both taproot, tap and adventitious root modification. Which plant show both tap and adventitious root modification? Then what is the answer you have to take? The answer which you have to look for is nothing but ficus or banyan tree. Why that ficus and banyan tree? So buttress roots what we find are example for taproot modification. Okay, in ficus is the answer what you have to choose. What is the question I said? Which plant show both tap and adventitious root modification? Then what is the answer? The answer is ficus. Why ficus? It shows buttress roots, that's a modification of tap root. And what is the other one? It shows what is called as prop root or pillar root. This is nothing but a modification of adventitious root modification. Okay, so buttress root is a tap root modification and prop root, pillar root is an adventitious root modification. So this is the expected question on ficus. Ficus is very important, very important. Right, this is Ficus religiosa, what we call it as what? Banyan tree. Next is second category, we take stilt roots or we call brace roots. So when you take the stilt roots or base roots here, what do we find? From the basal node of the stem, we find a bunch of adventitious roots. When you take the bunch of adventitious roots from the basal node of the stem, what I have drawn this diagram, this is for sugarcane. This diagram is for sugarcane. At the base, we find bunch of adventitious roots. They are called stilt roots or also called brass roots. So they also provide mechanical support. Let us talk about examples. Guys, try to remember, starts with S letter, 2 are there, and other 2 is R and Z. With that, try to practice number of times. Sorghum, common name is jowar. Saccharum, common name is sugarcane. Rhizopora, there is what are the 2 questions I gave today? This is one question and this is the second question. Okay, what is the second question? Which plant shows 2 types of roots? Then again Rhizopora will come. What are the 2 types of roots? We say respiratory roots and stilt roots. 2 types of roots are present in case of Rhizopora. Then Gia maize. Gia maize is commonly called as what? Maize. So here a third category is called as climbing roots. In case of climbing roots, aerial roots helps for climbing. So here when aerial roots help for climbing, they are called as climbing roots. And what are the example? Piper, beetle. Now let us continue with the third one. What is the third category we have? Physiological roots. So here if you take the physiological roots, so in that the first category what we have is parasites. Now what are these parasites? Now these parasites are also called as sucking roots. They are also called as sucking roots. Now if you take these parasites which are also called sucking roots, why do you call them as sucking roots? Because they suck the food. They take the food. How do they take the food? So here parasites or sucking roots here, what do they do here is they absorb food and water through a special structure called Fostoria. Okay, a special structure called Fostoria. So I repeat again, parasites are also called as what? Sucking roots. Why they are called sucking roots here? So here these roots, they absorb food and water. So here from the host, better you can add the word from the host through a special structure called Fostoria. What's the meaning of this? So in this case if you take, the roots are of 2 types. So they are called incomplete roots and complete roots. Incomplete roots are called complete roots. What is meaning of incomplete root here? Now if you take, suppose this is the root system, root enters into, this is a host plant, this is nothing but the host plant. Okay, so in this host plant you find a vascular bundle. In the stem or in the root what you find? A vascular bundle. So this is a root system. So into the root what it contains here? It contains xylem and it contains phloem. So when you take, this is a host plant. Host plant meaning here what? Who is giving shelter? Who is giving shelter? It's called host plant. Now into this host plant, the root of the parasite. So this is nothing but the parasitic plant. This is nothing but parasite. Now what parasite is doing? It will send a special structure to the xylem of the host plant, to the xylem of the host root. So the special structure what enters into the host, okay, the special structure what enters into the host, it's called Fostoria. It's called, what is called? Fostoria. The special structure what enters into the root, it's called Fostoria. I repeat again. So, to absorb food and water from the host through special structure is called Fostoria. This is a host root. From the host root, we want to take food and water. How to take food and water from the host plant? This is a dependent plant. This is called parasite. This is giving shelter. This is called host plant. Host plant is giving shelter to whom? Parasitic plant. What parasite plant will do? It depends on host plant. How it will depend? The parasite will send a special structure. It will send some special structure. What is a special structure called? It is called Fostoria. If this Fostoria enters into, I am writing Fostoria. If this Fostoria enters into only xylem for water, only xylem for water. Xylem is important. Only xylem for water, then it is called as incomplete parasite or root parasite. It is called incomplete root parasite. Meaning what here? I will repeat again, carefully try to understand. This is a root. This is the root of the host plant. This is a plant who is giving shelter. So, it is called host plant. Other plant is taking shelter from host plant. Who is it called? It is called parasite, right? Now, this parasite will send a special structure, some special structure into the root. What is the special structure which enters into the root? It is called Fostoria. With this Fostoria, what it will do? Fostoria enters into only xylem for water. It enters into only xylem for water. It enters and takes the water. It depends only for water, not for food. Okay, it depends only for water, not for food. It takes only water, not the food. Partially means only half it depends. That's why it's called incomplete, or it is also called partial root parasite. Okay, so incompletely depends, not completely. It depends partially only for water. How it depends on water? A parasitic plant forms a special structure called Fostoria. Fostoria enters into xylem and absorbs water. That's why it's called incomplete or partial root parasite. Then what is the meaning of complete root? Now if you take the complete root here, in this case I say, so this is a parasitic plant. I write again here parasite, but I am writing up complete parasite, I am writing up. So this is nothing but a parasitic plant. Okay, this parasitic root enters here a special structure called what? This is a special structure called Fostoria. Now this Fostoria enters into both xylem and phloem. I am showing very clearly, it enters into xylem and also into phloem. So here we can write Fostoria enters into both. Both means which both? Xylem. So I will write completely xylem and phloem. For what? To absorb food and water. Food and water. So this is important. That's why it's called complete root parasite. That's why it's called complete roots or complete parasites. Why they are called complete roots here? I repeat it again. Here the parasitic plant enters with the special structure called Fostoria. Fostoria enters into both xylem and phloem of host plant. Okay, it enters into what? Xylem and phloem of host plant. Now as Fostoria enters into both xylem and phloem, to absorb food and water. That's why they are called as what? Complete roots. They are called as complete root. That means it takes water from xylem, takes food from the phloem. It enters into both. It depends completely for food and water on the host plant. That's why it's called complete roots. I hope you got very clearly the difference. Until here I will explain again. First category under physiological roots means, physiological means they do some function. What are the functions? Physiological processes. What are they? Absorption, photosynthesis, transpiration. This all will come under physiological processes. Now in these physiological roots, the first category are called parasites. Parasites are also called as sucking roots. Why they are called sucking roots? They suck food. They take water, food and water. How? So here these sucking roots, they absorb food and water from the host plant through a special structure called Fostoria. Okay, based on this Fostoria, roots are divided into two categories. What are the two categories here? Roots are divided into two types. What are the two types? Incomplete root parasites and complete root parasites, or simply write complete roots. So incomplete is also called as partial root parasites or incomplete root parasites. Why do they call so here? Now you can think this is a host plant. This is the host plant. Now this is nothing but what? A parasite. This is nothing but what? Parasite. So who is giving shelter is called host plant. Host plant is giving shelter. Who is taking shelter? Who depends on that? Is parasite. This is depend on this. So this is parasite. This is a host plant and this is a parasite. Now what parasite will do here? Parasite will send a special structure into xylem. Okay, parasite will send a special structure into xylem. What do you call the special structure? A special structure is called Fostoria. What Fostoria will do? Fostoria enters into xylem. Fostoria enters into only xylem for water. So it enters into xylem and takes only water. As it takes only water, it depends only for water, not for food. They are called incomplete root parasites or partial root parasites. Then coming to complete root parasites. What's the meaning of complete root parasites here? Now in this case, this is a parasite again. This is a host again. It will send its Fostoria. Look at the picture carefully. Enters into xylem as well as phloem. It enters into xylem as well as phloem, means it enters into both. Xylem for absorption of water, phloem for absorption of food. So Fostoria enters into both xylem and phloem to absorb food and water. It depends completely for food and water. That's why they are called complete root parasites. Now you got it, incomplete and complete, right? Now let us study main categories. Parasites are further classified into two types. Further classified into two types. Okay, so what are we discussing now? These parasites or sucking roots are further classified into how many types? They are classified into two types. What are they? Let us take the first one under this. Root parasites. And let us take the second one into stem parasites. Okay. So, root parasites and then stem parasites. Now, these root parasites means the parasite depends on root for food and water or only for water. They are called root parasite. Suppose if the parasite depends on stem, then they are called stem parasites. Okay, if the parasite depends on stem, it's called stem parasite. If the parasite depends on the root, it's called root parasite. Now, if you look at these roots parasite, further divide into two categories. Okay, so here you can take incomplete or partial root parasite. What is the first category? Incomplete or partial root parasite. What is the second category? Complete root parasite. Okay. So, root parasites are further divided into two groups, or further classified into two groups. What are they? Incomplete or partial root parasites. What is the second one? Complete root parasites. Similar way, stem parasites are also divided into two groups. They are also divided into two groups. What are they? We can write incomplete stem parasites. Incomplete stem parasites. And what is the second category? Complete stem parasites. Complete stem parasites. I hope you got the story of this completely. Okay, you know what is Fostoria? Like this, the structure which enters into xylem, it's called Fostoria, right? And you know, incomplete and complete. I am just erasing this. Okay, so these are complete stem parasites. Right. Now, if you take the, what is meaning of incomplete here? You understood that Fostoria enters only into xylem for absorption of water. It's called incomplete, also called partial root parasites. Let us take directly examples. Guys, note down clearly, examples are very important. So, here you can take the first example. I am writing examples here. The first example is striga. Striga is why it is so important. See, I kept 3 star marks, means very important. It is smallest parasite. Smallest parasite on jowar and bajra. Jowar and bajra. Very important. Smallest parasite, it's a very smallest parasite on jowar and bajra. What's the meaning of this? Striga is a parasite. Striga is a parasite which is nothing but smallest parasite. So you can take which is the smallest parasite. Sometimes you will get the question which is the largest parasite. If the question is smallest parasite, look for the option striga. I repeat pronunciation. Striga, S-T-R-I-G-A. Striga is the smallest parasite. Where do you find this parasite? On jowar and bajra. Similarly, one more thing I am giving you example which is also very important. Whenever I keep 3 star marks, very important. What is that? Santalum. Okay, I wrote clearly the spelling. Santalum. I repeat, Santalum. Santalum, here it is the largest parasite. This is largest parasite. Very important. So, whenever you get the question which is the largest parasite means Santalum, but this is parasite only in seedling stage. It is appears only in seedling stage. Okay, so whenever the question is smallest parasite, take striga. If the question is where do you find striga, means jowar and bajra. Suppose the question is largest parasite, means take the example Santalum. But remember, Santalum can be seen only at the stage of seedling. These two are very important examples for incomplete or partial root parasite. What's the meaning of incomplete? It depends. Fostoria enters into xylem, into only xylem for absorption of only water. That's why it's called incomplete or partial, but not for food, right? So Santa strigalum. Striga is smallest parasite, Santalum is largest parasite. Coming to complete root parasites, you can take example. So here I am writing example. This is also very important. Rafflesia. Rafflesia is considered as largest flower. Rafflesia, it's considered as largest flower, and even you can take Orabanke. Orabanke found as a parasite on the tobacco plant, and Belanophora. Okay, 3 examples again here. I repeat again, complete root parasite means Fostoria enters into both xylem and phloem for absorption of water and food. That's why it's called complete root parasite. So for this example, Rafflesia. Why again I kept 3 star marks? What is the question expected on this? Largest flower. What is the largest flower? Rafflesia. Rafflesia is the largest flower. Remember, very important. Other examples are Orabanke. I repeat the pronunciation. Listen. Orabanke and Belanophora. So sometimes you will get the question that which is the root parasite on tobacco means tobacco plant. On tobacco plant which parasite you can see? That is Orabanke. Similarly Belanophora. Right. These 3 are for examples for complete root parasites. Then coming incomplete stem parasites. You can take example Loranthus and Viscum. Loranthus and Viscum. Incomplete stem parasite, the examples are 2. They depend on stem, not on root. Remember this, very important. They come under stem parasite. Fostoria will enter into stem, into xylem only for water, and that too on stem. It's called incomplete stem parasite. Incomplete stem parasite, right? Example Loranthus viscum. Pronunciation, listen carefully. Loranthus viscum. Right. Then coming to complete stem parasite, the example for this is nothing but Cuscuta. Cuscuta is an example for a complete stem parasite. Cuscuta. We say Cuscuta. Cuscuta is an example for complete stem parasite. Hope everyone got it. I repeat, parasites are also called sucking roots. There are 2 types. Root parasites, stem parasites. The parasites which depend on root for food and water are called root parasites. They are divided into 2 categories, incomplete or partial and complete root. Incomplete root parasites are 2 examples, Striga, Santalum. Incomplete means Fostoria enters into xylem only for water. Striga is the smallest parasite, remember it found on jowar and bajra. Very important. Santalum is the largest parasite. It is found only in case of seedling stage. Coming to complete root parasite, here Fostoria enters into both xylem and phloem. Example, Rafflesia is the largest flower. Orabanke is a parasite found on tobacco, and Belanophora. So these 3 examples for complete root parasites. Stem parasite, the parasites which depend on stem for food and water are called stem parasites. They are also same divided into 2 groups. What are they? Incomplete stem parasites, complete stem parasites. What is incomplete? Fostoria enters into xylem to absorb water on stem. It's called incomplete stem. Example Loranthus viscum. Then complete root parasites here, complete stem parasites here. Complete means depends on both xylem and phloem for food and water. Then you can take example. Example is what? Cuscuta. So these are nothing but altogether 4 categories. These 4 categories are very important. Okay, these 4 categories. In this important questions are there. Wherever I keep 3 star marks and make it sure that you revise it number of times because they are very important questions.